and welcome to the Latah Valley Fiber Co. podcast. My name is Tiffany. Today is January 9th, and it's the first regular podcast that I've had this year. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to all new viewers. I have several, so welcome. I hope you enjoy your time here. And welcome back to all of you who have been diehards the last 2 years. First of all, you can find me on Instagram at Latah Valley Fiber Co. You can check out my shop online, latahvalleyfiberco.etsy.com. And if you'd like to direct message me, you can do that through email, lvfiberco@gmail.com. I have some items that I'm currently working on that I wanted to share with you all, so let's get started. All right, so for 2025, I have no finished objects yet, but I do have several works in progress. And the first thing that I wanted to share with you, I actually started this in 2024. It's a work project, and this is a pair of socks. I started these December 27th. And the pattern is the top-down knee-high socks by Iswimlikeafish. The yarn that I used was a custom dye order for this pair of socks. And so there's no name, and I'm not carrying it in my shop. However, there is, oh boy, what a tangled mess. I'm doing 2 socks at a time, and I'm pulling from the center as well as the outside, so it's a little tangly. I am to the foot on these, which is nice. I've turned the heel. Well, first of all, I started cuff down. Okay, here's the first one. So cuff down, 2x2 rib. I cast on 84 stitches up here at the top. And then there's decreasing per the pattern all the way down, which is where these markers are, because I was doing 2 at a time pretty consecutively. Like I would do 10 rounds and then switch to the other sock and do 10 rounds. But I wanted to keep track because these are for a client, a customer. So I wanted them to be as accurate as possible. Now I've done a heel flap, and I'm working on the gusset decreases at the moment. So I feel like they're cruising right along. The shoe size is 7.5, so should be relatively easy to finish those up. In fact, I'm going to give them to her next week, so they'll be done. Plenty of time. I've never done knee high. Well, actually, these are just below the knee. So I've never done them this tall before, and actually, I might want a pair for myself. They would be very warm and cozy. All right, so that I started in 2024, December. But I'll finish it this year. Okay, the next thing that I cast on was a slipover. This is by Petite Knit, and it's the Ingrid Slipover. I started this on the 4th. Normally I do a New Year's Eve cast on, and I just wasn't there yet. So I did this on the 4th, which was fine, I feel like. The yarn I'm using is Juniper Moon Farm, number 13, and the colorway is SB24053. I'm following for the size 3. This pattern has 8 inches of positive ease, and oh, I'm at the beginning of the round, so that's good. I'll be able to show it to you really well. This pattern has 8 inches of negative ease or positive ease. Sorry, positive ease. And I wanted not so much. So I did a size down, size medium for my size. I cast on 96 stitches. You knit the back, top of the neck, do some short rows in there, and then you knit down to where you would join in the round. Then you pick up the shoulders, build those up, knit down, and then you join in the round. So that's where I am at. Now, Petite Knit has, I can't remember which yarn they used, but you could do DK and add a mohair. I didn't do that. That was one of the options. Or you could just do worsted yarn. So I didn't want the mohair part, so I just did worsted weight yarn. And I wanted it to be somewhat rustic so that I could wear this outside with just a long sleeve shirt, kind of like what I'm wearing now, and still be warm through the front and the back, my core. So it is very rustic. I don't know that I could wear it next to skin. Possibly once I block it, wash it and block it, it would soften up a little bit. This is 100% wool, and this is very enjoyable. I started this and promptly forgot about my socks. It's so engaging to knit all the different patterning. So up here you have a moss stitch, and then you're making eyelets here, which I don't know that you can see this very well on, it's dark yarn. There's eyelets here, there's a crisscross pattern here, more eyelets down here, and then there's a ribbing through here. And I have joined in the round. I've knit, half an inch maybe. And then my husband reminded me of my socks that I have to do for somebody, and I went, oh yes, I should put this down. So this again is the Ingrid Slipover by Petite Knit. I have wanted to knit this for a very long time. It's been on my Ravelry, not wish list, but favorites for several years. So I'm glad to finally get to it. Lots of fun. Now Petite Knit had the Ingrid in a dark yarn, so that's kind of why I went with the dark yarn. I feel like it looked the best. I was either going to go dark black or dark gray or cream or white. And so I got to the yarn store, which I bought this at Paradise Fiber, and I looked at both options, and then I decided I'm going to go for the dark, which I'm glad I did. However, this is a little challenging to knit on if there's not a whole lot of light. So got to keep that in mind. And on these dark and dreary winter days, there's not a whole lot of light. All right, so that's the Ingrid Slipover. It should be done by the next time I come to you, which will be fun. Maybe I'll be wearing it if I get it blocked. Okay, this next pair of socks is, let's see, I cast these on the 8th, so yesterday. They're the Colorwork Cuff Club for January, and this pattern is by Summerlee Design. The yarn that I'm using was gifted from my husband for Christmas, and it's the socks, yeah, in Obsidian, and Sugilite. All right, so this is Sugilite. This is where I'm at right now. And I initially started these 2 at a time. Then I had so much yarn vomit happening that I took them off. Sorry. I cast on 2 at a time on circular needles, and it was fine for the first part here, the cuff and then down to the first color work. But by the time I added the third color work, I I had to take it off the circular needles. So I put them on the second pair, or second set on, not set, the second of two on DPNs. The needle size I'm using is my standard 2.25 millimeter needles. This yarn from Steingass seems thinner, a thinner fingering weight. So I'm hoping that with blocking, maybe that'll even out a little bit. So needles 2.25. This purple is the Sugilite, and this lighter purpley gray is Obsidian. The white that I'm using is my own hand-dyed yarn. It was a leftover, and it was dyed specifically for a project, so I don't carry it in my shop. I probably would have started this on DPNs separately for yarn management, but I didn't have them free. And then I found these wooden ones, but I only had one set of 4. So let's see. I may put them back on the circular needles now that the color work is done. However, I'm doing a heel flap and gusset, and it would probably be a little easier to do them separately. So that could be what I'm going to do. I'll have to change that. I cast on 64 stitches, and I did do the shorter cuff that Summer had on the pattern. I'm slightly longer, maybe for 3 or 4 rows. She had a short cuff. So I did go shorter than I normally go, but not probably as short as Summer had on the pattern. I feel like it's a little bit taller. And then, yeah, so I am really enjoying Summer's Colorwork Cuff Club. It's a lot of fun. I didn't do December's. I was too busy doing some gift knitting. So December's pattern, I may wait until next December to pull those out and do them. We'll see how that goes. Okay, the last one that I have. This is a Sophie scarf that I cast on yesterday as well. And I'm using the hand spun that I did over Christmas Advent this year. This was a single that I two-plied it together. I feel like it's probably DK. However, I will show you some issues that I had with this. It was spun barber pulled. However, there are some colors that are very similar, like this current color is very similar. There's a purple bit right here, and it of course started with purple. And so this is two-plied. It's these purple barber pulled yarns are very similar, so you don't get barber pulling. It's a solid. However, in here, there's a little bit of barber pull here, and then it transitions into a more solid, although you can tell it's a lighter blue and a dark blue on this one. Now, you'll probably see my problem. There's a thicker patch here, and I started, you know, with just one strand, but hand spun yarn can be a little thick and thin and thick and thin. Even though you try to be consistent, there is still that issue to some extent. Although you can get better at it. I just feel like maybe I'm not very good at it. So I ran into some very thin pieces, and what I should have done was cut those out and then found where it was more even and continued. Instead, I folded it over and did 2 strands like this. So I took that, although it was a lot thinner, and 2 stranded it like this. And in some areas it was 3 strands. Okay. And then I just knit back and forth. And it created, I thought it was going to be okay, but as I was knitting it, I'm like, oh, that's really dense. I didn't change the needle size. I just kept with that. So this centerpiece is really dense, and it looks kind of funny if you're, you know, looking at your beautiful edges here. It's kind of interesting there. So I debated, do I rip it back, frog it back all the way to that point, cut out the super thin section, which was probably 6 feet long. So if I cut that out and then attach the yarn, I will probably not get the barber pulling in this fabric, but I feel like that would be okay. Since this is more of a solid and this is more of a solid, it would be fine. Or since this is for me, do I just keep knitting it? And this section happens to fall right at the middle of the scarf, so it would sit here anyway. And I feel like to have a little bit more thickness here, forget it looking amazing and perfect. If I had a little thickness here, that would be nice. It would help keep my neck warm. Although, if you've knit the Sophie scarf, you wrap it around, and it's going to get caught in my hair here. You wrap it around and then you do a tie, and it's pretty warm already. It doesn't need that thickness. But that's kind of where I'm at with this. I don't know if everybody knows who this Sophie scarf is from, Petite Knit, and I've knit it 5 times last year. And I had this Handspun that I spun up last December. It was a little bit smaller of a cake, and so I thought it would be perfect for the large size Sophie scarf. What I did was I weighed this, and then I knit for half of the weight, the increases, and then as soon as I hit half, I started decreasing. So I shouldn't have any of this left over. I didn't actually do the numbers for either the small or large Sophie scarf. So, yeah, knitting is what you make it. And some things, like the Ingrid Slipover, I'm pretty specific, and if I make an error, I go back and fix it because I want it to look nice. This, I feel like it's around your neck. It's got several layers of wrapping and tying a knot. No one's really going to notice this 1.5 inch thickness fabric and maybe this little hiccup there. I don't know. That's kind of my thought on it. So I will probably keep going since I have started the decreases, and I'll probably finish this today. So, which will be good because it's been chilly. So I am excited because Advents are challenging. I've done 2. I've done 1 yarn Advent, and this year I did the fiber Advent, and I spun it. And I still have yarn from my Advent 2023 that I haven't used, the minis. And so I wanted to use right away, cast on projects with, I ended up with 4 skeins of yarn, and I wanted to use them. So this is the first project I've cast on. By next time I see you, I will have another one cast on in something. I'm not sure yet. A scarf of some kind would be nice. Okay, so that's it for the Sophie scarf. I'll have that finished for you to look at next time. I wanted to talk about a little bit about what my plans are for this year. I know a lot of people plan out either a Make 9 board or something similar to that where they plan out for the year what they're going to make. And what I don't really get on board with that, but I have lots of patterns on Ravelry that I've either favorited or added to my wish list to knit. And the Ingrid Slipover is one of those. So what I would like to do is go through what I've already had on that Ravelry site. I'd like to go ahead and knit those. So that is kind of my plan. And I wanted to talk about a little bit about what I have on there. So let's go ahead and do that. There's way more on this list than I can physically get done this year, but let's just get started. I've always wanted to knit a Caitlin Hunter in one of her Colorworks. She's got a few that I would like, and I'll put them here. She has a few that are really interesting to me, and she's a very popular designer, so I think that would be, I've always wanted to knit one of hers, so she is on my list. Then another one is Juniper Steingass, specifically her VINTERSOL, and I just love actually her exact one is really pretty. I wouldn't mind doing that one. Also, the Western Rose by Thea Colman. I like how the color work is on the bottom. Normally it's up at the top in the yoke portion, but this color work is on the bottom of the sweater, which it looks really nice. So I would like to knit that one. Also for cardigans, the Feather Cardigan by Heidi May. I like how in this picture she has her yarn must change colors. I'm not exactly sure what she used, but I have some hand spun that has some color changes in it that maybe would work for this cardigan. Another sweater is by Locatelli, and it's called the TREVOR. And I liked this one because of how it was fitted at the top, but then it had a kind of a flare or an A-line at the bottom, and it's a little bit longer. It is fingering weight, so it would take a while. It's more of like a tunic, so it's a longer shirt. You could wear it as a dress if you had leggings on it. And then there were a couple shawls or big scarves that have been on my list for a long time, and I've done several of them. One of them by Andrea Mowry is called the Ramble Shawl, and that was on my list. I did it a couple of years ago. So there's a couple others. The EVERYWAY shawl, also by Andrea Mowry. I love the texture and the color of this one. And the size. I get cold around my neck area, so I like to have a little bit of a bulk there, especially if I'm out and about. The two other ones that I have are both by Shannon Cook. The first one is called BRADWAY. And again, texture and color looks amazing on that one. And the second one is the Harrow Shawl. And this one's two colors. You could do it in one color, I suppose, or add extra colors in there. But I liked the texture and the breadth of it. It's so big. She just drapes the whole thing around her shoulders, and she's nice and warm. And it goes down her back quite a bit too. So those are a few items that I would really like to focus on. And the Ingrid Slipover is also on that list. So I've got one done, and I'm hoping that I can at least check off a couple more of these favorites that have been on my Ravelry. So that's it from me for this week. I hope you all are doing well and staying warm. I will see you in a couple weeks with another episode. And until then, happy knitting.